it's a weird thing in Canada. It's not as common for sure.
Ruby West is a Canadian cyclocross sensation that is hoping to win the World Championship in Belgium this week, a sport that sees the athlete battle the elements with their bike, whether it be rain, snow, mud, or sleet. But the sport doesn't quite have the fandom in Canada that it does in Europe.
It is essentially, well, not non-existent in Canada, but at the professional level for sure. I think there's maybe one professional team in Canada, so it definitely isn't seen as much of a viable professional career for athletes.
This week, she boarded a plane to enter a competition with the hopes of reaching her goal of being a world champion.
Honestly, it's a little weird, and it still feels weird. It was hard to wrap my head around racing this year when it almost didn't feel right to.
Belgium tightened the restrictions on how long people can stay in the country. West was there for almost 2 months competing in the fall, but had to come back to Canada for a few weeks and quarantine, and then fly back over for the World Championships this week. When she first flew there last year, she didn't think the races would even happen.
Yeah, I think it never really sunk in until I got on the plane and I went that it was actually happening. And even when I got there, there was new rules and lockdowns in place, so we weren't sure. We were racing every race like it was our last because we didn't know if we would get the whole season.
Ruby usually would spend a few months in Belgium competing, but says the logistics of going there during a pandemic was a nightmare. And there was a great fear for her safety when it came to her possibly being exposed to the virus.
It kind of made me feel like, are we really meant to do this year? Like, if it's this much of a hassle at the races over in Belgium, it's pretty safe. It feels safe, which is good. That was a big concern for me going in. And I feel very grateful to be able to race this year because there's so many other disciplines in cycling that haven't been able to race.
The Cyclocross World Championships happening in Belgium are an event that usually has people from around the world gather to watch athletes like Ruby fight through the terrain towards stepping to the podium.
Generally, when we're over in Belgium, there's 30,000 fans on the course, and that's in a 3-kilometer course. So it's pretty packed full of people.
But because of the pandemic, there are no fans and extremely strict rules that Ruby and the other athletes are following to make sure that not only they are safe, but the community isn't at risk.
It definitely feels like a different sport almost than the one I know, but I still love it, and I'm still really happy we get to do it for sure.
Lindsay Dunn, City News.